This is Dave with XMD-NW.com. I'm here at Warped Tour in Auburn, Washington, finishing up the last of my interviews all day, 4.5 hours of it, and I get the pleasure of Gus from Young Guns. How you doing, man?
Good, mate. How you doing?
Pretty good. How you enjoying the States?
Loving it. Having a really good time. This is our first ever Warped Tour, so we didn't necessarily know what to expect, but we've had a great 2 months. It's a lot of work, but it's so much fun. We're having a great time. So I'm kind of really bummed out that it's winding down now. Very sad.
So, with that being said, any major bands that you really caught on this tour that just really stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, one of the cool things is that there's a bunch of bands playing on this tour that, we grew up listening to. New Found Glory, Every Time I Die, Yellow Card, who we're already friends with. So that's been really great, but we've also been able to watch and become friends with a bunch of new bands as well. So, Crown the Empire have been fantastic. They're playing right now. We've become really good friends with the guys in The Word Alive, and do you know what the truth is? One of the great things about Warped Tour is that although there's lots of different styles of bands going on this tour, you're backstage having a beer in the evening as it gets cooler and everyone's chilling and everyone's the same. Everyone just loves music, everyone's down to have a good time together, and that's really, really awesome. But I suppose Emarosa, Crown the Empire, and The Word Alive are three bands that I've really enjoyed watching on this tour.
So what cities have stood out on this tour that you got to tell your friends about and your family? And
we've never been to San Diego before. That's the first time for us, so I was really excited to go there. It's a beautiful place, really chill, really nice. We didn't play like a New York show, but we played a place called Montauk just outside of New York. That was one of our favorite shows on the tour. So that sticks in my memory as being a place I'm very fond of because of that. But honestly, I'm not saying it to kind of kiss ass, but I'm very fond of the state of Washington and my family. I have family that live in Seattle. I woke up this morning, I could see Mount Rainier, and I was just super happy. So today
just so mystical and beautiful.
It's stunning, isn't it? And I also really associate it with like good times because whenever I come and see my brother, I just hang out with him for 2 weeks, and I really enjoy being here. So when I saw that this morning, I was happy. And also today actually was one of our best shows of the whole tour. So can't complain.
So, being from out of the States and then coming back and experiencing the festival touring through the States and being in other countries and touring, what do you find that's unique between the fans?
I think, in a funny way, one of the great things about playing music is that wherever you are in the world, however far away from home you are, when you're on a stage playing to a crowd full of people that are singing your songs back and all that kind of stuff, you feel like you're at home. You're in an environment that you're playing the music that you're familiar with, you're playing to people that you're connecting with. That's a really comforting kind of experience. But in terms of being different, the main thing I take away from playing shows in the States, because I'm from England, I grew up in London, is that I don't know if it's simply because you have so many more people in this country or what, but rock music and kind of all the alternative forms of music, metal, punk, hardcore, whatever, like there's a real appetite for it over here. You have lots of radio stations playing it all. You got people from all different age groups and all different backgrounds at these shows, 10 years old, 50 years old, whole families, And America is such a diverse place, which is really interesting for me to see. But I think the greatest thing is, there's always a diverse crowd, and they are always appreciative and very welcoming. So I really enjoy playing shows over here, actually, because you do get treated very well, and that's really good fun. That does happen at home in the UK, but the UK is simply so much smaller. The UK is the size of the state of Texas. So to be here and to be playing to this many people every day is a real trip. So I think the biggest thing is that I just find America to be a very welcoming place.
Do you like the big festival crowds, or do you like the more intimate club tour crowds where you get to be more intimate with your fans when you're on stage?
It might sound like a bit of a politician's answer, but it's the truth. I really do enjoy both, but they bring different things to the table. Like, I love playing a little sweaty club show to 200 kids where sweat is dripping from the ceiling, and you're half deaf because everyone's singing together, and you're right in each other's faces. I love that because there's like an intimacy and an immediacy and a real connection there. You know, you can see the passion, you can smell it. It's an amazing thing. But playing on a big stage to a big, huge crowd of people is kind of total wish fulfillment. You know, when I grew up when I was a teenager, and my walls were covered in posters of bands that I loved, from Nirvana to Slipknot to whatever. And when I'm on those kind of larger stages playing with my friends, looking out at big crowds, it always reminds me of when I was a kid, looking up at those posters and being like, I wish that was my life. You know what I mean? So on this tour in particular, I really feel like I'm connecting with the 16-year-old version of myself that always wanted to be a part of this world, because now I am. So I probably enjoy the larger shows just because it's such a trip to see. You know what I mean? Like that's a view, that's a perspective that not many people in this world get to experience, and it always makes me think, hey, you better be grateful because this is fucking amazing. So the bigger ones.
Today's age around the world is all about media, so the social media and everything on the internet. And fans nowadays, they record everything that they do, pictures. Does that bother you when you're on stage and you see phones up and people not moving around? Or do you prefer to see people move around while you're up there playing?
I would always prefer for people to kind of just exist in the moment a little bit, and I've always found it slightly curious in a way that they would choose to experience the show through a 8-inch screen, as opposed to just going and having all of the sound and all the visuals, and just, I want to see people when we're playing. I want to see the crowds jumping and singing along, and inevitably when they're doing that, that's not really happening in the same way. However, this is, I'm not 16 years old anymore, and I think to a degree you have to let people kind of experience the show however it is that they want to experience it, and it's important, I think, for kids these days to be filming it and to feel like they're taking a piece of it home. So I respect that, but I would always prefer to just have that real energy,
the real connection.
I think, because that's the one thing you cannot duplicate and you cannot record. That feeling of being in the pit with your band's favourite song playing super loud through a huge PA, that's an amazing thing. And I always remember when I was a kid doing that, nothing else mattered at that point in time. I was just so happy to be seeing the band I love play a song. And, I hope that people, when they watch our show, are experiencing that. But, if they want to put a camera up, that's fine. Maybe if I'm hungover, maybe if I'm tired and I feel like I look like shit or whatever, I'm like, oh, don't take a picture, come on. But I respect it. I think I just let people do what they want to do. I'm not like I understand why someone like Corey Taylor is like kicking off about it, but I'm not going to do it.
It's funny that I didn't even have to mention his name, and he's one of the key culprits.
It was a recent thing. He took some kid's phone and kicked it or something.
Yeah, right? And then threw water on another camera, one of the actual press photographers. Yeah.
But I think it's because
Marilyn Manson last night threw blue powder all over one of our photographers and fans that had their cell phones up.
It's tricky. I think it's a fine line between making a point and being disrespectful. At the end of the day, people have paid money to come to your show.
And how they see your show should be up to them.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I think I can understand that argument. So it's kind of, I see it from both sides, but I would always prefer you to just sing along, get involved, connect.
No,
I want to look at you in the eyes. I don't want to look at your lens. You know what
exactly. I mean? Well, and then there's guys like Brian, the singer of Hell the Villain, from Canada, that when he sees something like that, he'll jump off stage and get right up into their phone and make it personable for them, so that when they do go back and see that video, they're like, oh, that really did happen. It wasn't something I just thought.
I've done that before. I've jumped down onto the barrier and I'll take their phone and I'll turn it around and we'll be singing together, and and I think that's fun. That's a nice way to make it engage yourself in the experience.
And give them something that they didn't expect. Yeah. Thanks to Europe, they brought vinyl and cassettes back to the mainstream and in our metal world, in our rock world, and now it's becoming a big thing worldwide again.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see, something that's not downloadable, but yet people are starting to buy it at high volumes.
Man, you can go
Where do you see our industry going?
I it's complicated. I don't know. I mean, it's funny because in one way it's modernizing at such a pace, you know, with the digital downloads and streaming and all of these very, very kind of the minute ways of digesting music. But in the same time, we're seeing 13, 14-year-old kids that are fans of my band who are buying vinyl now. You know, you can go into Urban Outfitters and buy a little cheap vinyl player with speakers in it, and it's made it kind of it's made it relevant again in a really cool way. And I think I've always loved, whether it's a CD, a cassette, a vinyl, whatever, I've always loved the process of buying music in a store, and you have the artwork and you have all the lyrics and you have all the information, and it's a tangible, physical thing. And that inherently, I think, gives it more value. There's like a triviality to just pressing a button and getting the song. It kind of, I do think that some of the inherent value of, you know, because this is an art form, right? And I think when you're just clicking a button and getting the thing, there's like a disposable quality to it that it doesn't have when you, I used to go to a record store and just buy vinyl or buy CDs of bands I didn't know, because I loved the artwork, or I'd heard about, you know, this band sounds like this band on the recommendation shelf. And because I'd spent that money on it and I had this thing, I would invest time in it, and even if I didn't like it, I would keep listening to it and try and figure it out. And I discovered a lot of new music that way. I think now with this thing to just buy a song, whatever, it's like a minute in, I'm not feeling this, skip, go to something else. You know? So there's like it has trivialized it a little bit and made it more disposable. But I think it's great that people are getting into vinyl again. I think it's awesome.
So nowadays you're starting to see some bands that are like, one of our local bands, Queensryche, did a recording funding to where the fans donated and for the recording, and then in return they got, when the album comes out, a private show just for those that did it, and those that couldn't be there get a live stream of it, and they send them autographed discs and stuff. Do you see that being a way that bands will now be funding their recording now labels don't as much?
Well, I think, you know, the fundamental truth is that kind of bands and musicians and artists, that you're having to think of and discover and think about new ways, frankly, of making money, because, you know, without making money you can't sustain yourself as a band. So how are you going to fill your tank with gas if no one's buying a shirt or whatever, you know? And it's difficult, so people aren't buying music. So I think I see that getting more and more prominent. I think to be perfectly honest with you, I think in the end record labels will cease to exist in the way that they do now. What I think instead is going to start to happen is you're going to have bands that employ teams of people, so a PR team or you know, whatever, booking agency.
Instead of all of it being done through
like a label. I think that old traditional model is going to inherently start to disappear. The only good, I don't want to say the only good thing, because our label has been very good to us, but the one thing that a record label still brings to the table these days is money, to allow you to record those albums. And if you can start to crowdfund recording processes and stuff like that, even that element of record labels starts to maybe not be as essential as it once was. So I think, you know, I inevitably see that happening, and that's why record labels and all those kinds of people are having to think of new ways to make money as well. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that's going to get more and more prominent, and I don't have a problem with it really. I think, you know, whatever. When I was a kid, I wanted bands to be mysterious, and I loved bands like Tool and people like this who had this enigmatic quality, you know, and I would always hunt for more information about them. That world is kind of done now. You have to be always on your social media. People want to know what you're doing, what you're eating, you know.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird to me. But at the end of the day, I think you have to adapt and change with the times, and I think things like that are going to get more and more prominent until they become the norm and the record label becomes this kind of antiquated idea.
So what's in store for Young Guns after Warped Tour?
We have a little bit of time off, which we're very excited by. 10 days, 12 days. And then we have not a tour, but a bunch of shows in the UK because we're releasing an album. Releasing an album called Echoes, comes out September 16th. So we go home, do a bunch of promotional things for that, and then we're back here on September 12th, and we have a bunch of headline shows. The album comes out on the 16th, and then we're doing a couple of support shows that we haven't announced yet. And then we go back to the UK and we tour with Billy Talent for a month in the UK and Europe. and then we're hopefully going to be back over here in November. So we're busy.
Well, this is Dave with XMD-Northwest.com. And once again, thank you for your time. Check out Young Guns if you haven't. And if you have, you heard it here. They got an album coming out, Echoes, real soon here. So make sure you go out, pick up the actual physical copy.
Let's do it.
Or pay on the download. Supporting local music and national.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Nice one, man.